Well, I'm starting work again on my Grav-Light. Here we have what will be the back frame and the front frame. I got my positions laid out for all the bearings and stuff. So first I'm going to cut this out of this 1/2-inch birch plywood, and then work on creating all the openings for my bearings, cut out the spaces for the various standoffs and spacers that will separate the two pieces, and kind of see how things go together. Clearly I didn't use enough spray-on adhesive for the pattern. For patterns that are larger, I typically don't use the glue stick, at least directly on the paper, just because that tends to warp and stretch the paper. So I use a spray-on adhesive. Sometimes I don't put enough on. And then you just touch up the spots in the pattern that are getting loose. We're good to go. For these pieces, the next part I have to work out is the right size drill bit to recess these into the wood. This is the larger bearing that's going to be on the main big gear, and then the other 3 gear sets that are going to go on this are going to use this bearing size. So I just got to figure those things out. I'm going to drill it so that it doesn't go all the way through, it just sits in there flush with the edge, and then we'll drill a hole that's larger than the shaft all the way through so it won't rub on the other side. Okay. The larger bearing seems to be a pretty close match for 7/8, so I'm going to try and make a couple test cuts in a piece of scrap to test that size. And the smaller one seems to be a pretty good match for 1/2. And kind of just line it up on there. Looks like it'll work pretty good. So, and perfect fit. A little looser than I wanted, but I don't have a size that's smaller that's going to be any better. So next size I have down is 3/4. That's going to shrink it too much, so I'm going with 7/8. Go on here deeper. Do the test quick on the other side. And well, that's even a better fit. One of the issues I'm running into a little bit with is on the larger hole. I now need to make sure that I drill out the inner opening to not rub on the part of the bearing that spins. And some of my larger drill bits just kind of go through and I did a few tests on my test piece, and they're too rough, and basically I can't make a center hole. And I just assumed they would self-center as they went in. That proved not to be the case. So now I'm using this bit here, which is a 1/2 inch, and just kind of eyeing it up. This is my second one. The first one came out perfectly. Oftentimes eyeing something up comes out very well, so don't, give it a chance. There's the hole it made. I put my bearing in, just hold it in place, it completely clears. Making fairly good progress. Got all my holes drilled and my access holes to drill out the spots where I'm going to mount the spacers. Did make one major mistake, however. I want the bearings all to face inward, and I should have inverted the pattern for the outside piece because I have them facing outward. So I guess I'm going to have to remake that. It's unfortunate. You can't just flip it over. It's not a mirror image. I'd have to flip the pattern before printing it, but I guess that happens sometimes. Well, I'm making good progress on my frame. I've redone the front piece. It's going to go in here like this. I got my pieces that are all going to sit in here. Right now I'm working on the standoffs. That's going to be pieces similar to, well, just like this, that are going to go in here, here, then over here. Then on the front piece, they'll feed in with this. They have a hole drilled in, so they'll feed through. And the front will be held down with a screw. So they'll go down the middle, pull everything tight. To make the standoffs, simply have my 1/2 inch stick here. I'm going to make a line with a pattern on it. I got a circle for how deep I'm going to drill my hole. I'm just going to put this here, make a mark. So I'm going to drill it out that deep so the wood doesn't split when I screw it in. I got to also size it up a little bit. It's a 1/2 inch. Plywood is never actually a 1/2 inch. So we got to accommodate that because we want it flush with the front. So we just make a couple marks of where we have to end up, ending with our structure. We got to cut off just a little bit. It's not exactly straight, but we'll straighten that out to a square. Move it along in the frame here. I'm now going to work on the 2 spacers that are going to give most of the strength to the front of this structure, so that when the weight's on it, it's not going to shift down. It's a little more than the smaller spacers. So these will be a little bigger here. The bottom, I'm going to screw, with all the pieces screwed on the top side, I'm going to glue the bottom in, and that'll keep all things square and in place. These spacers I'm going to make pretty much the same as I made the smaller ones. The plan is slightly different for that, so I'll work on those now. Here we have the finished spacer for the bottom. We'll go in like that. It is already in place. We'll slide them in place for now. Line everything up. Just screw it right here and here. The whole idea of having the front half so I can screw it and unscrew it, of course, so I can take it apart, put it together, getting things just right with all the gear placement inside of it. For instance, this gear will go here. The gear is obviously here, here, and here, all overlapping. And we want to get the spacing just right. We may have to take things apart a few times to get up there. Over here on this side, it'll be a slightly smaller spacer. They're pretty much the same as that. Construction technique is identical. I have all the standoffs glued in place now. This particular video is getting a bit on the longer side, so I'm going to make a break here. I want to thank everyone for watching, and hope you come back for the next part. Thanks again. Bye.